All right. Welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with some very, very interesting news coming out of the UFC and the California State Athletic Commission concerning Aspen Ladd. So, the California Athletic Commission does fight night weigh ins like they do the day before weigh ins, but then they also have fighters weigh in on fight night. And if you are above 10% of what your body weight was for official weigh-ins, they normally recommend that you move up to the next highest weight class because it shows that you were cutting too much weight. They are the only state to do this. Well, apparently they've recommended it for several fighters, and this after the last UFC 240. No, I'm sorry. It was the fight night between Ladd versus De Randami. Well, apparently they have decided to suspend Aspen Ladd's bantamweight license. California State Athletic Commission has. I talked about this last night at the start of my Invicta 36 live fight companion, but I thought I'd go ahead and cover this again in its own separate video. This is an article released last night by Mark Raimondi at ESPN, titled California Suspends Ladd's Bantamweight License. Aspen Ladd will need to do some work before fighting at bantamweight in her next bout. The California State Athletic Commission has suspended Ladd's license to compete at bantamweight pending documentation from physicians. CSAC Executive Officer Andy Foster confirmed Friday with ESPN. Ladd looked ill weighing in on July 12th for UFC Sacramento and weighed 159 pounds the following day for the bout. That represents an increase of nearly 17% from the 136-pound bantamweight limit. Ladd weighed in at 135 pounds and gained back 24 pounds heading into fight night. CSAC regulations say the commission can recommend or require a fighter to move up in weight class if he or she weighs more than 10% over the contracted weight on fight day. Foster said Ladd is suspended in California and no other jurisdiction, though there is a note next to her name in the Association of Boxing Commissions and Combative Sports database. He expects other commissions to honor it. MMA Junkie first reported the news of the suspension of Ladd's license. Ladd's manager, Dave Hirschbein, declined comment to ESPN, citing advice from the team's attorney. Ladd has been booked by the UFC to fight Yana Kunitskaya on December 7th in Washington, D.C. in a bantamweight bout. Foster said Ladd will work with the UFC Performance Institute in Las Vegas to come up with a nutrition plan that will have to be approved by CSAC physicians. The physicians will then monitor her weight leading up to the December fight, Foster said. Ladd trains at MMA Gold in Folsom, California, less than 30 miles from Sacramento, where the CSAC is based. Foster said he has been in touch with DC's Combat Sports Commission about the situation. In the UFC Sacramento main event, Ladd was knocked out by Jermaine De Randami in 16 seconds. Ladd was cleared by CSAC physicians to fight on weigh-in day, though she was visibly shaking on the scale. Dr. Gary Furness, a CSAC doctor, told ESPN at the time that Ladd's shivering was likely due to nerves. She did slightly overshoot her weight cut, but she was not dangerously dehydrated, Furness said. She had moist mucous membranes, her vital signs were stable, and within a few minutes she was starting to orally hydrate and was back to normal. Ladd, 24, has missed weight twice in her MMA career. In addition, she fell ill the day of her scheduled UFC debut in 2017 and was forced to withdraw from the bout against Jessica Eye. Ladd is 8-1 as a pro MMA fighter. Ladd is not the only fighter coming out of UFC Sacramento to be suspended by the CSAC for weight issues. Shaman Moraes, Mirsad Bektic, and Darren Elkins are all suspended by the CSAC pending clearance by doctors. I'm going to skip the paragraph about the other fighters. Foster, who has been the most outspoken official in combat sports against extreme weight cutting in MMA, said he is working on a regulation that would pull fights off a card if the athlete is 15% or more above the contracted weight class on fight day. If that regulation was in place for UFC Sacramento, at least 2 fights would have been pulled, including the main event of Ladd versus De Randami. Okay, so Ladd was extremely heavy compared to her weigh-in on fight day. And, the doctor cleared her to fight, but I think everybody kind of saw through that BS. But now that it's come out that she was like almost 25% over the body weight of the weigh-in day, you know, I think CSAC is really going to cover their tracks this time. And you know what? I don't blame them. And frankly, I think this is a good move by the CSAC. And you know what? I wish more athletic commissions would do this, requiring weigh-ins. I mean, you know, I think it's more important that a lot of fighters learn more about proper nutrition, proper dieting, more cardio-intensive exercises to help them keep their weight down. But eventually, unfortunately, it is going to be up to regulatory bodies to step in and do something. And I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like big government at all. I want, you know, I don't want over-regulation in sports because it usually mucks things up more than it helps it. But in this case, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay? A death in the UFC, particularly of a female fighter, could be devastating to the sport. And Ladd is clearly cutting too much water weight. She's cutting too much weight. She's not keeping her weight down enough outside of her fight camp. And then she's cutting down way too much weight. Okay, I don't buy the nerves thing from the doctor. I think she was dehydrated. I really believe she was. I mean, you hate to call a doctor out on that, but this doctor was being paid by the athletic commission to make sure that that the event went on that day. As for Ladd, less hikes in the mountains with her dogs, more cardio-intensive workouts. Period. And also better dieting, better nutrition. I know MMA Gold is a relatively small gym, and Ladd is definitely their biggest fighter by far that I can think of. But, you know, maybe it's time for, if not Ladd personally, then for the gym to bring in, you know, a full-time nutritionist that will work with the fighters. And definitely put in some more cardio-intensive workouts going on. For her to be this heavy, that much heavy over on fight day, means that she is, honestly, you know what? She should just move up to featherweight. Period. Okay? She could kick some ass at featherweight. It's that, the talent level, especially in the UFC, is very much lower than at bantamweight. She should just go up to featherweight. Period. Why even bother killing yourself to make weight like that? It's silly. She'd have an even faster climb to the top at featherweight than she has at bantamweight. Frankly, I'm tired of these weight bullies in this sport. I'm sick and tired of it. If you're that much over on fight night than what you weighed in, then you don't belong in that weight class. That's 24%. That's almost a quarter of her body weight. That's ridiculous. Period. I can see why Cyborg tries to avoid fighting in California. But we not even going to get into that. This is about Ladd and her weighing in. So you know what? Kudos to Andy Foster and the California State Athletic Commission for trying to chomp down on these severe weight cuts. I wish more state athletic commissions would do this. And kudos to him for getting in touch with the commission in Washington, D.C. I hope the commission in Washington, D.C. decides to do something as well. Anyway, that's it for this subject. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA now, the fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. And we'll see you next time.